Hello my little horror family, I hope you're all doing really well. My name is Sarah and welcome to What the Horror, the channel where we talk about horror movies old and new. Also, welcome to another episode of Monsters 101. It's been a minute, where we look at and study the monsters of horror, taking a look at the villains, ghosts, demons and creatures that haunt the screen. For this episode, we're looking at Gabriel, the antagonist of the 2021 Malignant. Gabriel is the remnant of the parasitic twin of Maddie Mitchell, born Emily May, that was surgically removed from her body. While Gabriel is technically only a shared brain, once he becomes dominant, he appears human. In Malignant, Gabriel takes control of Maddie's body with the goal to exact revenge on the people who abandoned him and then removed him from Maddie. Just a heads up that this episode will contain major spoilers, seeing as how we're taking a rather deep look at the antagonist of the film, so just bear that in mind if you haven't seen the film yet. Also, I thought I would just mention that while I don't go into too much graphic detail and the images I'm going to be using will not be too graphic either, YouTube, we will be talking a little bit about medical procedures and I guess what could venture into body horror, so again just bear that in mind. Although if you're watching this then I assume you've seen Malignant and know what I'm on about and are fine with it. Gabriel is the joint creation of director James Wan and his wife Ingrid Bizyou, after a conversation they had about medical anomalies and parasitic twins. The pair came up with the story, with Akela Cooper eventually writing the screenplay. The film itself is a love letter to giallo cinema, and as with a lot of his films, James Wan credited Dario Argento as an inspiration behind Malignant. And while Gabriel's story comes from a medical background, his design is, like the look of the rest of the film, rooted in giallo films. Costume designer Lisa Narcia apparently said that the vision for Gabriel was clear from the very beginning, that he was intended as a nod to the killers of Italian giallo films. That's why Gabriel wears black gloves with gold zips, as black gloves were an absolute staple of giallo killers, especially those from the 70s. His full-length black leather coat is intended to look old and falling apart, as though it's something that he came across discarded in the attic of Maddie's house. But it also functions to allow Gabriel to look recognisably human, while also hiding the twist reveal of Gabriel's true identity and form. So the coat is full length with a high collar and a hood. It gives Gabriel an identity while also acting as a disguise, all with a giallo touch. Gabriel, nicknamed the Devil by his twin Emily, was born in April 1985 to Serena May. Gabriel is an extreme version of a teratoma, a type of germ cell tumour that can contain either immature or fully formed teeth, hair, muscles and bone. He's also known as a parasitic twin. This occurs when two embryos in the womb don't separate like they should, and one twin is dominant while the other is underdeveloped. The film explains that this is different to conjoined twins, as the underdeveloped twin is dependent on the other. That, quote, like a parasite, Gabriel feeds off of Emily. Serena May was 15 when she was assaulted, which resulted in her pregnancy, and her parents believing the pregnancy was an abomination against God leads Serena to decide to give the children to the Simeon Research Hospital, which was established in 1907 under the care of Dr. Weaver. In 1992, 7 years after the twins entered Simeon Hospital, Dr. Weaver records that Emily has started showing signs of mental psychosis, seeing visions and hearing thoughts. To investigate further, Dr. Weaver sedates Gabriel so that she can speak with Emily alone. Dr. Weaver asks Emily why she has become more aggressive recently, and Emily explains that it's because Gabriel tells her to do things, bad things. He tells her to hurt and kill other people. Gabriel communicates this to Emily through words in her head, but also through feelings and emotions. Emily also explains that Gabriel makes her strong. That's why she is able to hurt people twice the size of her. In February 1993, Dr. Weaver begins to believe that Gabriel can make Emily see what he wants her to see by accessing the part of her brain that controls visual stimuli, causing her hallucinations. Later in 1993, Dr. Weaver fears that Gabriel is growing stronger and more malicious, and if his strength and ability continue to grow at this rate, then they won't be able to contain him. Her fears are proven correct when Gabriel escapes from his room and heads to the records room in search of his own personal information. The staff try to subdue him with electroshock, but it has no effect on him. In fact, according to Dr. Fields, Gabriel was able to, quote, drink the electricity and control the machines. While the hospital staff are trying to subdue Gabriel, he attacks and kills 4 people. One of them by throwing them across the room, hitting a wall out in the corridor. A member of security staff loads a tranquilizer gun and Dr. Weaver orders him to, quote, take him down. But Gabriel is too strong, overpowers him, and breaks the security guard's arm before outing the hospital lights. Dr. Weaver manages to eventually tranquilize Gabriel, and he emits a high-pitched noise which is painful to human ears. After this attack, they decide to remove Gabriel as he has become a threat to not only the staff, but to Emily as well, as he's taking all fluids and nutrients. The surgery takes place on the 7th of October 1993. They plan on removing Gabriel's physical body, but a full removal wouldn't be possible as he and Emily are joined at the brain. So, whatever remains of Gabriel is suppressed into Emily's skull. The surgery is successful and Emily May is adopted when she's 8 years old by a Mr. and Mrs. Lake. The Lakes change Emily's name to Madison, or Maddie for short. Angry at Maddie and her new family, Gabriel continues to speak to her. He tells her that her adoptive parents aren't her real family, and because Maddie speaks back to Gabriel, the other children at school call Maddie a freak, resulting in her not having any friends. And it wasn't just other children that were concerned by Maddie's conversations with Gabriel. Her parents were too. Concerned over some of the topics of conversation they would hear Maddie having with Gabriel, and believing him to just be an imaginary friend, they began telling Maddie he wasn't real, becoming angry at her and blaming her for things Gabriel had made her do. When her adoptive parents become pregnant with Maddie's sister Sydney, Gabriel becomes worried that once Sydney is born, Maddie wouldn't need him anymore. So, he tells Maddie to hurt the baby. But Maddie refuses, and once Sydney is born, Gabriel becomes nothing more than a forgotten memory. Maddie loses all memories of her life before she was adopted. Maddie would go on to marry Derek Mitchell, an abusive husband and drunk. One day, after returning home from work, tired and in pain, Derek throws Maddie against the bedroom wall, injuring her head, but also awakening the long-dormant Gabriel. When Emily and Gabriel were born, Gabriel was the undeveloped twin, but he was in the beginning a physical parasitic twin. Gabriel had a head, body and arms, none of them fully formed, and attached to the back of Emily's head, neck and spine. But when Gabriel is awoken after Maddie hits her head on the wall, he no longer has a physical body, and so instead takes control of Maddie's. Gabriel emerges from the back of Maddie's skull, with his facial features being eyes and teeth in tissue and, well, brain, making his face always appear fleshy and bloody. Gabriel is tall, slender, with Maddie's long brown hair covering most of his face. He wears dark trousers, black leather boots, and black gloves with gold zips. He also wears a full body-length black leather coat with a tall collar and a hood to hide his true identity. Because Gabriel emerges from the back of Maddie's skull, his physicality and movements appear not quite human. He's using Maddie's body and limbs, but all in reverse. So while he looks human, he also moves in an almost animalistic nature. From a very young age, Gabriel has been angry and cruel. Perhaps he holds anger at his mother for giving him and Emily to the hospital, and at being physically restricted in what he can and can't do. He channels his anger through Emily, his twin, telling her to do bad, hurtful things and making her stronger so she is able to do them. them. As Gabriel gets older, he becomes vengeful, wanting to punish and kill those that he felt abandoned him and then removed him from Emily. In his words, "I'm going to make them pay for what they did one by one." He remains angry at Maddie for forgetting him and allowing her adoptive parents to convince her that he wasn't real. But while Gabriel is focused on his revenge, finding his targets and carrying out his vengeance, there are glimpses of a twisted sense of humour to him. When he attacks and kills Dr. Weaver, his weapon of choice is a trophy she won for excellence in surgery by the Northwest Medical Research Association. The trophy is fashioned as a golden replica of a caduceus, a modern-day symbol of medicine and healing. Dr. Weaver surgically removed him, and now he kills her with a trophy she won for surgery. There's a certain level of perversion in that. He turned a symbol of healing into a weapon. There's also a nastiness to Gabriel in the way that he kills people. He plays with them for a while first, like a cat playing with a mouse before it kills it, making them scared before finally killing them. And speaking of killing, Gabriel is a skilled and efficient killer. While he was still attached to Emily's body, he managed to kill 4 members of hospital staff. It's unknown how he killed 3 of them, but the 4th was thrown across the room, hitting a wall out in the corridor. 27 years later, Gabriel and Maddie share a brain, but only Maddie has a physical body. So, by tapping into the area of the brain that controls visual stimuli, Gabriel tricks Maddie into thinking she is living her life, going about business as usual. But in reality, he has placed her in what the film calls a mental prison and has taken control of her body. Although she is imprisoned, Maddie is still able to see the murders happen, but believes them to be dreams or visions. She becomes physically paralyzed while witnessing them, symbolizing her literally being trapped in her own mind. Initially, Gabriel hunts and kills people who he feels abandoned him and then removed him from Emily. These are personal kills of revenge. Gabriel likes to torment his targets first, to make them scared. And we see evidence of this when he targets a tour guide of the Seattle Underground, who turns out to be his and Emily's birth mother, Serena May. He manipulates the lights and makes sounds while hiding in the shadows. Then he runs at her from the darkness, jumps up and hides in the rafters. Once Serena is terrified and has turned on the lights, then he jumps down and attacks her. Serena May, his birth mother, is the only one that he attacks but doesn't kill. Instead, he captures her and keeps her hidden in the attic of Maddie's house, tied up on the wall like a fly caught in a spider web. As Gabriel is able to manipulate and control electricity, his arrival is usually signalled by lights flickering and radios going static. This also signals that Gabriel has taken control of Maddie's body and that what she is seeing isn't real. As well as his mother, Gabriel locates, hunts down and kills the 3 doctors from Simeon Hospital. He kills all 3 in their own home and at night. He stabs Dr. Fields in his bed and Dr. Gregory in his bath, toying with them both first. Gabriel kills people in a varied but brutal way, ranging from throwing at walls, breaking body parts, stomping on body parts, and even literally punching through someone, and a whole bunch of stuff YouTube wouldn't like me to say. But Gabriel is creative and will use what is around him. He'll use objects and his surrounding environment. He will even use one person to kill another person. But during his attack on Dr. Weaver, Gabriel finds his signature weapon of choice, his golden dagger. As we've mentioned before, the dagger was fashioned from a trophy of Dr. Weaver's. That was a replica of a caduceus sat atop a marble base. In Greek mythology, the caduceus was a symbol of peace and the staff of Hermes, the messenger to the gods. It was originally an olive branch decorated with 2 ribbons, which were eventually interpreted as 2 entwined snakes. In Greek mythology, there is a very similar symbol, the rod of Asclepius, which is a serpent-entwined rod used by Asclepius, the Greek god of healing and medicine. The rod of Asclepius became the symbol for professional healthcare associations in America. But over the years there has been some confusion between the two, and the caduceus has also been used to represent the healthcare providers. The belief is that this stems from the US Army Marine Corps adopting it as their symbol for medical officers. While most of Gabriel's kills are personal, he is so driven in his plan of revenge that he will kill anyone who gets in his way or poses a threat to him. We see this when Detective Shaw arrives on the scene of Dr. Gregory's death. Gabriel hides from him before attacking Shaw, but ultimately failing to kill him. We also see evidence of this when Gabriel kills Maddie's husband Derek. Perhaps Gabriel sees Derek as a threat to his being able to control Maddie and her body. The final and strongest evidence we see of this is when Gabriel proceeds to wipe out an entire police station of both officers and prisoners to get to his next target. Although being of human birth, Gabriel was born with supernatural abilities, more specifically electrokinesis. He is able to manipulate and control electricity, turning lights on and off, and as he was born with no vocal cords, he can communicate through radio waves, broadcasting his voice through radios, speakers, and phones. Gabriel is also able to manipulate Emily's vision and memories by accessing the part of the brain that controls the visual stimuli. Gabriel also has accelerated healing. He is able to break from the back of Maddie's skull and heal it again without causing damage to Maddie or her brain, or without it being overly noticeable, apart from a little bit of bleeding. Gabriel also displays great strength and agility. He is able to lift and move things multiple times heavier than Maddie's body and scale walls and ceilings. We see Gabriel swing and drop down a fire stairway while being pursued by Detective Shaw and navigate himself through obstacles, all while moving Maddie's body backwards. But while Gabriel has healing abilities and strength, he is still only human and so vulnerable to attacks and injury. We have witnessed, though, that to defeat Gabriel is an incredibly difficult task, one that an entire police station couldn't succeed in doing. The only person who has seemingly been able to defeat Gabriel is Maddie herself. She was able to subdue his voice in her head when she was younger by focusing on her love of her sister Sydney, and 27 years later we see her defeat Gabriel once more. While Gabriel is attacking Maddie's sister, Sydney, at the hospital, Sydney calls to Maddie and is able to wake her from Gabriel's dream. Maddie is then able to once again become the dominant twin. She uses Gabriel's abilities against him and traps him in an illusion of her own. She's then able to take back control of her body. Gabriel is trapped in a dream jail cell, but he tells Maddie that one day he'll return, and Maddie says she knows, but next time she'll be ready for him. With the final image and sound of crackling electricity, I think it's safe to say that Maddie hasn't seen the last of Gabriel. Thank you guys for attending another Monsters 101. I know it's been a while. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. As always, let me know your thoughts on this week's monster or villain down below. What are your thoughts on Gabriel, the antagonist of Malignant? For me, I find Gabriel a refreshing and interesting horror villain. He's filled with cruelty and anger, but is such a complex character because of what he's gone through in his childhood, because of what his existence was. And with his skills and abilities, he's a bit like a horror action hero, well, villain, but you don't see Michael and Jason legging it and parkouring across the city. It's just something new. And speaking of new, if you're new here, then don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this episode a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, as it really does help the channel and pleases the YouTube overlords. You may have also noticed that I am clearly full of cold, so I do apologise if I sound congested or if my eyes look completely glassy. But in the meantime, thank you as always for stopping by. I really do appreciate it. Take care of yourselves and I will talk to you in the next episode. Bye.